explore the five spiritual faculties tonight, and I wanted to start with one of my poems from Scuffed Up Shoes called Clear Path. Knowing this is a desperate journey, untangling our projections and our stories, sitting on the edge of our history, knowing that refusing entry would only pull us farther and farther out to sea, resolving not to leave this fire for another day, but sit in the center, attending to breath after breath with a simple refrain: I am here. I am here. Aware, deep down knowing, breath could be shallow or deep, sometimes long or short, always attempting to catch it, releasing, softening, breathing. Support by this eternal presence. Life breathing itself. How great to know it has worked for eons. Slowly dissolving the old darkness, tentacles from the past dissolving. The power of breath, releasing multiple contractions, giving way to the certainty. This breath is enough. Awakening assured by our lineage, so clearly spelled out. So the five spiritual faculties, it's always nice to do something positive instead of negative. And I think the 7 factors and the 5 spiritual faculties, these are, and they actually talk about them as, first of all, they're trainings, and then they become powers. And I like that somehow, that there is this capacity for these designations to actually bring us to some means of understanding and power. So they're really, it's really based on, there's faith, there's persistence or perseverance or energy, mindfulness, sati, memory, concentration, focus, collecting, and wisdom, which is kind of the pinnacle of it, which is the understanding or the comprehension of what it is that's going on. But we have these, prior to that wisdom, we have these 4 acknowledgments. And I think, sometimes when we use the word, it's sadha in Pali, and which may be translated as conviction, belief, and faith. And of all of them, I kind of like the word faith, that somehow you have to trust or believe that this practice for eons has gone somewhere. It doesn't just, it's not just kind of something that got invented a little while ago. I was, this afternoon, I was reading about how Buddhism, the kind of the what a lot of the art and form of was brought from Sri Lanka to Thailand, and then out of Thailand, then it grew into this massive thing, but it was already in Sri Lanka. And we have spent and a lot of that was, of course, 6th and 7th century, and there was huge amounts of I can say royal support for all of the temples and paintings and amazing amounts of archaeological, I guess it would be now, you would call it that. But they're not just archaeological because they are still functional today, because people are actually still going to these temples of 6th and 7th century that are places where they go. Also, okay, I'm going to do a little side trip here, and that really has to do with their belief in, that when they come and they give gifts, and they kind of do their prostrations and they chant they chant the refuges and the precepts, which are the basis. But there's also this belief that somehow there is something about touching the universe that is not just that physical thing, but actually there is something. The word I like, okay, it's a little trite, but the word magic, it's really that somehow they're touching into a universe that actually is beyond the physical world that we see. And I love that about stories about the devas in the time of the Buddha, that there are, you could say, just simply forces that exist that are, outside of our scientific kind of rational approach. There's no way to measure them in any way, except that through faith, that this system of belief that happens. Now, I know, like in the Thai culture, okay, I apologize for this part, is they also have a huge amount of superstition around ghosts and, I was reading that the big airport in Bangkok, the new big airport, that they had to bring 99 monks there because there supposedly was a burial ground there, and that and people would see these beings walking around in the airport. Well, we all know that the ghost realm of an airport is very real, so I always go, oh yeah, that makes sense, that there's something out there that that is unknown by us, and so why not? Where was it? I saw something that was kind of great about faith. See if I can find it. This is from Coleridge. The willingness to suspension of disbelief. Can we remain open to possibilities that things we do not yet know for ourselves, with neither blind belief nor blind disbelief? So there's that thing of like, can we just kind of say, well, there might be a lot going on here that we don't see. And I have that feeling in our world here. Okay, it's not so much about devas and Buddhas and all that stuff, It's more about trees and rocks and rivers and mountains, that they carry unseen forces that we should respect on some level, even though we don't have to believe in them, but we don't have to disbelieve either, and acknowledge that that could be so. So I think this, and the word sadha is kind of a very at least I see in Asia, and why I love going to Asia actually is because I don't have a lot of faith myself. Just know that I go and I do my things, but I'm not looking for anything out of it. I see they do look for something out of it, and I don't know it doesn't happen. All I know is that I don't have it, and I like to go and feel and see that kind of devotion that that maybe I get to borrow a little for a little time there, and I'm sure that's true in probably all religions and in that way. So there's faith. There's this word virya, which is the second of these five spiritual faculties, eventually five powers. And, and that's really the energy or the perseverance. You come to practice and you do this over and over. And I used to love when I used to teach up in Santa Rosa at the old Italian nuns there. They were all about 2 feet tall, and their perseverance and their what they and their capacity for repetition and daily resuscitation and chanting and all that they do was something. The energetics of it was phenomenal. You could feel it, and I think that this is something that in our own practice, I think we all get a little lazy, or at least I do. I don't know about you, but I can speak for myself. If I'm traveling a bunch, I don't sit as much as I would like to, and I just get a little lazy, and that's true. And yet I have this recognition that this virya, or this perseverance, is one of the fundamental functions of this practice, and that one of the beauties of this has to do with this simple truth called repetition, that I do this over and over, and that some days it feels like a rote exercise, and another day it's incredibly inspiring. So it's something also that needs to be cultivated. We have to cultivate that kind of persistence and energy for it. There's a wonderful story in the Buddhist tradition when the Buddha was teaching one of the monks. His name was Sona, and he had been a lute player before becoming a monk, and he was having a really hard time, and so the Buddha actually went to him and asked him and said, "Well, Sona, when you have your lute, if you leave the strings too loose, it doesn't work. And if you tighten the strings too tight, it doesn't work. You have to be able to find that balance in the energetics, so that you can play the lute with the right notes. And so that was Sona actually then takes what the Buddha says, and guess what? He gets enlightened. you know? So, we have to find that place in ourselves between the energy of practice and really it is kind of I know because I got involved in it, was over efforting, which then ended up eventually for me disappointment. And it was really, could I find this, what the Buddha called the middle way, as practice. Now, another way of talking about the five spiritual faculties, the last two being concentration, wisdom, and wisdom being really the heart of it all, and mindfulness kind of the center there. Is our main intent here. If you have faith and you have energy, but you don't have mindfulness, you don't have anything, And so mindfulness is the pinnacle of this particular list of practice, and that our willingness to kind of acknowledge. So let's break it down. So, mindfulness is being used in so many different ways right now in the secular world. So maybe we should use a different word. And traditionally, it's the word sati, which also refers to the word memory, but also it is our capacity for the continuity, because of the perseverance and the energy of mindfulness, or you could say of awareness. And awareness is something that is always there. It's been there since the day you were born. There has been awareness there. And yet, what happens is that we take that awareness and we attach it to all of our experiences, sensual experiences, thoughts, our memories, our fantasies. And what's possible here is, and I like to see it because I'm kind of somewhat visual. So I see that there are our five senses and our thinking, and that is this in the front of all of our experience. That holds it all is the awareness, or you could say the mindfulness. And what we have to do is see that there is, when that awareness, the attachment to those five senses and our thoughts and our memories and our plans and our fantasies, etc., that when they're attached and they are simply, in a sense, to use some language, you're lost in thought. You're lost in the senses. You're lost. And, it may be pleasant for one moment, but another moment it'll be unpleasant. It's kind of the play of the senses. And somehow we think that's enough. And what this practice and what spiritual practice really is about, oh, can I step one step back and see that there is something that's holding all of this? And that is the awareness. And the awareness, yes, it is easily caught up in all of the goings on, the constant. There is never a break in it. It is just a continuity of that. And so we have to be, in some sense, we have to begin to see that there is that awareness doesn't necessarily have to attach itself to the senses or the thoughts or any of the sense experience, or particularly beliefs and ideas and views. That it actually can separate itself out and start to notice that it in itself is something that's free from everything. You know, as I said, is there when you were born. You've been walking around with it the whole time. It is not different than awakening. So that's the kind of criteria here, is that for you to be able to stop, let go, and it's really that let go of sense or thought, and all the aspects and planning and fantasizing and remembering and all of that, that there is something that's holding everything. And so there's this ability to sit back and rest with the knowing itself, not with what is known. And it's an art, you know, and you really have to come to this and begin to see how it all works. This is from Ajahn Chah. If you are interested in Dharma, just give up. Just let go. Merely thinking about practice is like pouncing on the shadow and missing the substance. If you follow the basics and practice accordingly, you will see that the Dharma for yourself. Observe your own mind, and you will have a true standard to judge by. Practice in this way, and the rest will follow naturally. So this, you know, in a way, it's sort of like turning the mind around on itself, because the mind is always using all of its energetics to figure out our world, to somehow make it the way we want it, I guess is what happens. And this is saying, no, we don't have to do that. There's actually a different way of doing this. And that's simply turning the mind around and noticing what it is that's noticing. That's already there, that's awake. And seeing if we can't rest in it for a moment. And the thing is, you have to do this over and over and over and over and over again, because your nature is, and also your survival mechanism is, you have to go and, you know, you're going to have tea or, you know, do whatever it is to keep the community and the body working properly. So that's all true. But there are moments, you know, where there is a moment of, you could say, just resting, and that the mind can then not manufacture things or try to make it better or get out of a problem, whatever. But it can just rest in itself. So it doesn't need to do anything but know itself. You know. So a lot of the mindfulness also has to be held in a certain way, or the awareness. And that's where these other two factors come in of concentration. They use the word samadhi, which is actually a wonderful word, because we want to translate it as concentration. And I think it's a lot more than concentration. It is when you are collected, and when you're collected, you don't have the need to manufacture and to think or plan or remember. You don't need that. That all you need is to stay collected, and that then the whole body can rest and the mind can rest, and the object of awareness then in itself is enough. And that can eventually be just turned to the awareness. But it may be at first, it has to be the breath or metta or some object that supports the collecting that happens, which means that then there's not so much random thoughts or this awareness, what it's doing constantly, it's moving from one thing to another. It moves so fast, from seeing to smelling to hearing to tasting to thinking to remembering to fantasizing to planning to, oh my goodness, it is just constantly in motion. And the idea is we have to slow the whole process down. And that's where this collecting and sometimes concentration, if you want to use that word, or samadhi, is a necessary function to be able to turn the mind around on itself and begin this awakening to awareness as our soul vestige to freedom. I think the awareness or mindfulness is it's the most necessary piece in all this. But at the same time, the result is this fifth, really, I'll call it power. And it, the word is pana, which is, it translates understanding, comprehension, and then the kind of big word is wisdom. And wisdom is a compilation of what the Buddha was talking about as the middle way, the non-extremes, that then gave us some insight into ourselves, the I, the me, the mine, into impermanence, into suffering, of how the world functioned. And it's a very, wisdom is, it's such a big word to me. It's like, hey, I'm a little better with understanding and comprehension. But it's also um, the only way that we can function in the world is through wisdom. And so it's a cultivation. This idea of the middle path with, enough faith and perseverance and awareness and collectedness or samadhi, so that we can not only function in the world, but also bring some, I think ultimately all this is somehow bring some vestige of support, not only for ourselves, but those around us, the world. And it's really where I think the Theravadan system goes into the Mahayana. And so that suddenly there is a caring for others, and that we have been working on wisdom so that we can be of benefit to others. And that's simply the result of all this, and we have to go through these, in a sense, we have to hold these five as a means to be able to support or help other. The world needs us right now. I was just thinking of if I look out my window to the right and just over the hill there, big plume of smoke and all this, that Forestville fire. And it's interesting because I would go and teach. I taught some 10-day retreats in Forestville at a kind of camp there. And so I'm somewhat aware of the area. That's scary. It's like we are burning again. And so I think with that, we have to also, I sort of have, I guess I'm naive in some ways. I've fought a couple fires in my time, and they are completely crazy. I don't know how in 110 degrees, how you get people out there to fight these fires. I don't know, but my heart goes out to them, and I'm glad we only have a couple more days of this. But that's it. Holy smoke, that we are here and we are so vulnerable. And if you live in Auburn, it's just across the river, and I heard it jump the river. So it's like this is very real. That life is this precarious, right nearby. And it's all, I guess in some ways it's always been like that. And I was really moved today. I listened to NPR about this a little bit of the life of Queen Elizabeth, and her stance. She was always, since I can remember, 60 years on the throne. I was 16 when she went on the throne. Not that I knew, but she has been, the word regal. Just she has been the British uprightness, for all these years, and has a very clean record. It's like in Thailand, the last king, he was on the throne for 70 years. So he's the longest monarch that has ever lived, that we know. And he also, he was, one of the beauties was, the people loved him so much because he was a generous being. And he also was very upright and regal and very careful with his words and his actions. Something I'm not sure the next generation is going to have that privilege. Certainly in Thailand, the present king, I can't say anything against him because that's, I could probably end up with never getting a visa there again. But really different, And so in a way, I hope that we all take, things like the precepts and the this capacity to have some faith in the workings of awakening, and that it can help us kind of live our lives with some dignity. So I wanted to know if I've kind of done my thing on the 5 here, but I want to know if you have questions that maybe I can't answer, but at least it will put your mind in looking for answers, So please, I see. Is that Susan Ford? I see your hand up.
How are you?
I'm well, and you?
Good. I have a question. I have been cogitating on mindfulness and awareness as if they're the same thing. And you kind of said that they are, but I have, from what I can see in my meditations and stuff about mindfulness, mindfulness is more a directed thing. I'm asking you if this is wrong.
Yes. No, you're right.
It's more a directed thing, whereas awareness is like open.
Yes, exactly. And that's why mindfulness has been used, and why I'm careful with it, the word, because it has been co-opted in the business world and in all over, which is good, because it is that bringing the mind to what it is that's appearing and happening, which is fabulous. But then awareness is something that is much wider, bigger, and holds infinite, and the other holds relative. Is that helpful?
Yeah. So if in your everyday life you're aware, I'm having some questions about if you're aware in your everyday life, does that mean that you're present? If you're aware of what's going on, if you're aware of what you're doing?
Well, that's important, to be aware of what you're doing. There's a little bit of a distinction there. Mindfulness is more directed.
Mm.
It's being aware of what you're doing in your life. I mean, you get up and you go out and get in your car or whatever, and you're aware of all that. And so mindfulness is just a little more, it's a little narrower. This is interpretation, please. This is just general interpretation. It's more of, and mindfulness has effort uh,
Okay.
in it, where awareness is actually kind of more of a passive noticing. Does that
Okay.
help?
Yeah, that's helpful. So, but mindfulness, when you practice mindfulness and you are really deep, it opens into this more expansive thing.
Exactly.
So, is that still mindfulness? That isn't mindfulness anymore?
Well, okay. Let's take a look at that. So mindfulness, there is awareness, which is that holds everything. Okay. And there is the directed, which is the mindfulness. And when the mindfulness kind of completes its journey in a way, it becomes awareness.
Okay.
So most of the time we're working with mindfulness. But also sometimes we kind of step out of the known part of it into this greater knowing
Okay.
or unknowing.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
It's
Great.
kind of, I've been working with it a lot, and
I hear you. Yeah.
so
Uh, Tracy? Hi. Oh, you got to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I don't. Um,
No, we all do it.
I'm gonna. Oh God, my screen's weird. Okay. Just piggybacking on Susan's question really quickly, but then I have one other question. That's quick, hopefully. So I always thought of awareness as kind of like the quote, like the face before you were born, kind of in quotes, or the what's always been there, and not kind of like what's there when we aren't there, kind of.
Okay,
Um,
true.
okay. Kind of like when we drop everything or everything drops, that's what's left.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, because it is, again, I think, like the vocabulary thing, the translation is like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. My other question really quickly, well, not quickly, but however you just decide. Why did you say that you don't have a lot of faith?
Because I travel sometimes with people who, first of all, the Thais do not see me. They know I'm a teacher, but because I'm not in robes, I am nothing. I'm just another Joe Schmo. You know, but then I see that they believe so much in this path of awakening, and in Buddhism. I can't. I just don't go there. I'm respectful, and I kind of go through the motions. But I was with Neem Karoli, Ram Dass's teacher, Neem Karoli. I was with Neem Karoli, and I remember we were all there, a bunch of us, and Krishna Das, and I don't know, all these different, and one of the things was that um, I could see that these were also very devoted, foreign people. They were all, these were our old hippie community there. and they had such faith, and I didn't have any. I was like, oh, okay. There was still this rational mind that I tried. I went around India for a year and a half, meeting different, particularly Hindu teachers, and seeing if I could connect and surrender. I never could. I was a failure.
Isn't faith like a fruit of practice, though? You know what I'm saying?
I see people that are born with faith,
Mhm.
so I know I have to work on it. It's like I really love going to Asia, and I love to go to the temples and hang out with, and these are really devoted people. The same in India and Nepal. And so I kind of borrow a little bit from them. And I'm hoping next round I'll have a little more of it, but I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I don't know where we are. I could do it. Yeah, I can do another question here. Maybe an answer, maybe not. But I can't see very well. So, Patricia, is that you? Yeah.
I just had a question. Somebody once said to me that, a lot of people say, well, I'm golfing and that's my meditation. Or I'm, doing something and I don't need to meditate because I golf. Or like the Ram Dass story about the woman that said, I crochet.
Right.
And I was told by a teacher that to really do mindfulness, you need to stop. So some of those things really aren't going to get you to that same place that you would get to if you were really being quiet and slowly paying attention. And that made sense to me because I maybe some people can get real benefit from doing their golf or their, crochet and so on. But for me, it just seems like he was right that I kind of have to stop and watch because it's harder to do that with something else going on. I wonder what you thought.
Well, I agree with you for myself, but I can't speak for the golfer or the, whatever that that somehow that may slow their minds down enough, the activity.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't, but it's why I think it's why the Buddha was so much into breath practice, that okay.
Right.
And also, you see this in Thais. A lot of them, they say they're not ready to do vipassana, so they do mantra practice. Buddho, or in the Tibetan, no mani padme hum, or something. There's something that they can use repetition as a means, and that's why I'm saying crochet could be that. I don't know, or golf. I don't know. So I can't say it's not, but I know for myself and for many of us, we have this very simplistic system of first of all, stilling the body, then applying the mind to simple processes. So I wouldn't say that crocheting wasn't that, except that it's outside the body.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're talking about here is some function that then can point you more towards the awareness than, so the others actually can bring you lots of mindfulness and concentration. So there's a narrowing of the awareness. But I don't know. I just don't know because I don't know those things. And all I know is sitting practice.
Right.
And it
Me
works.
too.
Yeah.
Well, I also remember climbing in a tree at Spirit Rock and having an amazing experience. And so I don't know how that happened, but
Well, the preparation, it's just like a lot of this is based on stilling the mind and using it, and this is for the actual wisdom part, then of sort of being in the right place at the right time for the knowing mind to let go.
Yeah.
And when the knowing mind lets go, and that's tricky because it could be that it can be anybody anytime, but the probability is what has been going on for almost 2,600 years, is that people have been trained over and over again to bring some stillness, and that stillness then brings some insight. That insight brings an experience that then helps them understand how the universe kind of works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Okay. Thank you.
you're very welcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oops. So we're going to do just a little metta to close here. And I want to thank you for appearing. So just turning your attention away from the thoughts and the ideas and to this heart. And again, I think one of the beauties of these practices is having a great, being able to forgive. And I'm not very good at that. I can see that over the years, but I think it's an absolute necessity, is that we have to learn to forgive. And, whether it's being hard on ourselves, which I've been very good at, or being hard on others, and knowingly or unknowingly, and also to those that may have, disparaging towards us or anger or fear towards us, that we also attempt to forgive. And then the practice of the heart gets a little easier when we can learn to forgive. And so if there's anyone that we need to work with, let's work with. And if not, just to rest in the good heart, this capacity for kindness, for, you are a reflection. I've had to learn this, that I am a reflection of everyone. Nothing special about me in that way. It's just, I am a human being with what they call the three poisons of kind of the kind of big words of greed, hatred, and delusion. But just of, if I can use the word stupidity, of wanting, and of disparaging or pushing away, that we were these simple creatures, and that we can learn to love ourselves and forgive ourselves for the mistakes we make. And that if we hold ourselves in esteem, that then if we are a reflection of everyone, that we are no longer holding just ourselves in esteem, but all beings. I am, I get discouraged with the world, as you all do. And I just want to extend to the world in its confusions and war and anger and pillaging. And it's unbelievable human beings. And extend loving kindness out to all the creatures, pets and animals in the world, all the fish that swim in its waters, birds that fly in its sky, and that that all may be at peace and take care of each other, so that we can all live in peace. May all beings everywhere be happy.